Welcome to this video, which is one in a series that I'm doing on features of Adobe Lightroom Classic. In this video I look at printing a color image. So here we have quite a vibrant image. It's in a letterbox format and I want to print this as large as I can on the printer that I have. Now the printer I use is an Epson P600, but the settings I'm going to use here are appropriate to most good quality inkjet photo printers. So the first thing is that we will go into the develop module, and although this image has been processed, the first thing that I want to do is check this little feature here, which is a soft proofing feature that attempts to emulate the effect of paper and ink. You can see here that it puts a white boundary around the image. Let's just get rid of a few of these things here, and gives this little menu here that we can change things. And one of the things is that it asks if we want to create a proof copy. This is a virtual copy, and if you're used to Lightroom you will know that Lightroom can create multiple virtual copies, and these are really lists of processing, recipes of processing that you have done within the develop module on the same raw file, which never varies. It's non-destructive, and you may process in one particular style and not be particularly happy and want to try something else, so you can basically create a virtual copy. Well, this proof copy is a very specific type of virtual copy, and it lets you then to apply other processing without interfering with your original attempt. So in this case here, if we were to further process this image, we'd be automatically prompted. One of the things that I find that I often want to do when I'm looking at a proof is that I find that it's a little bit flatter than it was before. So the first thing to do is up the exposure a little bit, just to give it a little bit of vibrancy, and the minute I do that, you will see we get a message from Lightroom saying, do we want to create a proof copy? There is nothing to be lost from doing this and everything to be gained. So we will produce a proof copy, and you can see that we've now got a new proof copy here, and that change in the exposure has been applied. So if we go back to the original one, you can see it's a bit darker, and we have made it a little bit brighter, maybe too bright. So one stop's maybe too much. Let's bring it to about somewhere around 2/3 of a stop. And the other thing often that is necessary to do this is add a bit of contrast. Now we can either do that as global contrast, or sometimes a little bit of clarity might help. Oh, too far. That's adding. Let's put that back. Maybe about there, and even open up the shadows just a little bit. So there is the image as we want to print it on the paper that is selected. Now it's really important when we're doing a color managed print that you have the correct profiles, these ICC profiles. Some paper manufacturers offer a service where they send you an image which you print on your printer and send back, and then they send you a tailored profile for your printer with that paper. But if you use multiple papers, you're going to have to do that multiple times, and if you change your ink, you're going to have to do it again. I find I use Epson ink in my printer, and I find that the profiles that I get from the manufacturers of the paper, if you're using good quality paper, which you should, the profiles, they spend a lot of time creating these profiles. They want you to use their paper. They want the results to be good. So they produce these profiles, and you can get them on their websites. And a lot of the time they also give excellent instructions on how to set up the printing. Canson is one in particular on their website. The instructions for printing are superb on their website, and their profiles are really excellent. Before you make any alterations to your proof copy, make sure that you've decided what paper and ink you're using, and select the profile. So we're using the museum profile for this. And the other thing here is this simulate paper and ink. I think it would be daft not to use that, to be honest. It's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get an impression of how this is going to look in a print. So we've given it a little bit of a boost of brightness and contrast, and we've everything set up, and this is ready to go to print. So the next stage is to go to the print module, and the image will be plunked onto the paper. Now, Lightroom tends to hold the details of what you did your last printing job. So in this case, it's an A3 plus paper that I was using. Now for this, I have actually a panoramic paper that I can use, and it's very simple in the software to set up these odd shaped papers. And as you can see that this is maybe more suited to this image, but actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with a standard paper, and so I'll do that from the complete setup. So I'll start with the page setup. So it brings us into this dialog for the printer, and it's a simple dialog here. I'm not going to go into the printer properties at this stage, that will come later. So at this stage what I want to do is select the paper. With regular paper, basically the largest paper that my printer can use is A3 plus. So if I select that and it's coming from sheet and I want landscape, and click OK on that, it brings us back to really where we started there, which is A3 plus paper, and it has plunked the image into the centre of that. There are a few things then we need to look at with regard to the rest of the print setup. So we'll go through these in order, and I apologise that jumps about. My wireless mouse does this periodically. So the first thing is, this is going to be a single image, and there are some features here for image setting, one of which is zoom to fill. I'm going to take that off for the moment, and you can see the immediate effect on this by doing that, and I'll come to why that has changed in a moment. So we'll take zoom to fill off. Stroke border is a little feature. You can see it at the edge here, a little border around framing the image. It's applied to the inside of the image, and it can give it a little border. You can make that quite big. It's just a matter of taste whether you want it or not. We leave it off in this case for the moment. The next thing that we come to are the margins of the paper. Now these will usually default to the margins that give you the maximal printable area of the paper that you're using with the printer that you're using. I do not tend to use borderless printing because I would lose part of the image, and I don't know how much of the image I'm going to lose. That's a printer thing, and in this we want the whole thing managed within Lightroom and the printer to do what it's told. So in this case, the margins, I have set them all to be even on this, and just to keep everything regular and have the image in the middle of the page, but it's not really that important, to be honest. You won't maybe want to leave enough of a margin if you're going to be putting a mat round the image, but it depends what you're doing with it afterwards. Margins aren't as important as something further down this little box, and that is the cell size. Page grid is, it loves to jump, doesn't it? the grid, we're one image, so the grid is 1 by 1. So that's irrelevant to this type of printing. But this is the crucial thing here, the cell size. Now this is going to give us the output image size. The lovely thing about Lightroom is that I actually don't have to resize this to a particular print size in the software. Lightroom will do that automatically for me using this cell size here. Now I have it the measurement set to centimeters because I'm dealing with a print and I want to know, maybe I've got a pre-cut aperture mount and it's a certain size and I want to put the image in a mount that, let's say, is 20 centimeters in height by 42. Let's just take a figure, 42 centimeters. So what has that done to the image? Well, we have zoom off and we also have this turned off. So let's turn that on, because what's that is showing me? Actually, that wasn't a bad guess. That wasn't a bad guess for this image. What this is showing me is where the margins of that cell are. So in this circumstance, I could very easily, oh come on, stop jumping, zoom the image to fit that cell. So say I had a pre-cut mount of that size, aperture of that size. There we go. We've lost very little. The image, it's cropped a little, and it's done it evenly. It's cropped it at both sides. So put the image back in the middle there. But you can move, if the image is more dramatically altered by using the zoom to fill, then you can move it around. Let's make a more extreme version of this. Let's move that to there. Now you can see what immediately has happened. Because I've zoomed to fill on, the software is filling the cell with image, and it basically will fill it to the most crucial margin, which in this case is the height. And I can play around with that. You might say, oh, well, actually that's quite a good image there, and be happy with that. But the point is, I want a more letterbox image from this. So if I take out off the zoom to fill, then we're back, and you can see how the cell size. Now these indicators for this, the guidelines, they don't print, so you can leave them on or take them off. They're useful to know where you are and where the image is being resized dynamically by the printing module. In this case, I would like the image to be as big as I can get it within these constraints. So if I start to draw the image out, I can see that I'm not going over, I'm not losing any of the image. I'm maximizing the image area on the page. I would still have plenty of room, but if I do that, then it's cropping the image, and I don't want the image cropped, so take that off again. So there is my panoramic image. I can use this, the height, just by moving that. I can bring the guideline down so that I can see roughly where I am. It's going to be round about just over 22 centimeters in height, that image. If I put it bigger, it doesn't matter. Say that doesn't print. There's the image there. If I have my little stroke border, the stroke border goes round the image. Doesn't matter what way I change the cell, the printed image will have the stroke border on it if I apply a stroke border. So if I let's do that zoom to fill, you can see the stroke border goes around the printed image, so very different from those guidelines. So we'll take that stroke border off again, don't want that. So guidelines are useful. You have other things like identity plates and watermarking and all of that. I'm not going to go into that. You play around with those at your leisure, and you can get your own logo or watermark or whatever. I tend not to do anything like that on prints. So in this circumstance, we're going right down to the little section entitled Print Job. Now in the print job, first thing is print to printer, and you might say, well, duh, but in fact the other option is to print this whole thing out as a JPEG. Now what that will do is that will produce an image sized at A3 size with the white boundary around the image. Now you might think, why would you want that? Well, it might be useful to put it on a pen drive, take it to a printer, and know that you have an image sized for print. But for the moment, we're printing out to a printer. Don't want draft mode. Print resolution. By default, print resolution comes up as 240 ppi. That is really not great. And in fact, you can change this, but what I have found is, since we are resizing dynamically and everything is being done dynamically by the software, which is going to talk to the printer and tell it to print, I have found the best thing to do with that is turn it off and let the software and the printer work it out between them. Now you can play around with that if you like, if there's some instructions with your printer about this, fine, but for me, I have found over many years of doing this that this works. Just uncheck that. Sharpening is a different matter. Now again, you don't have many options here. There is low, standard or high. This equates to what other software would talk about output sharpening. Basically, when you're processing the image, you may or may not have applied some sharpening. You can do that globally, you can do it selectively. There are lots of tools for sharpening. You can do that in third-party software, bring the image into Lightroom. And so you may either want to disregard this or apply it. There are those that would say some degree of output sharpening is desirable, and software, there's a piece of software in the next suite that will do this, and you basically fill in what your output is going to be. So it will sharpen differently for a smaller image going for screen display to a large image going for large format printing, and the degree of output sharpening will vary. Basically, Lightroom is going to do that job again quite dynamically. You just tell it, do you want a little, do you want a moderate amount, or do you want a lot? A moderate amount has worked for me. That's where I leave it. Again, you can experiment with that. The next type is basically really a binary choice. Your media, your paper type, it's either matte or glossy, and basically, you know, if you're using matte paper, in general that will require matte black ink, and glossy paper will demand photo black ink. So that will depend there on that choice of paper. In this case, we've chosen a type of glossy paper. Basically anything other than matte papers require glossy. So luster, semi-gloss, the option there is for glossy, because that will determine photo black ink. The other thing that will influence the choice of ink, of course, is the profile. Now you can see here that the profile that is in the printer here is not the one that we used when fine-tuning this image. So that is not the one we want. So you've got the same list here as we had earlier in the soft proofing, and so we want to go down, and it's the we decided on that. And actually we also had decided on perceptual rendering, and so that's what we would highlight there. Now this then basically is we are using color management. The other option here in this is to have managed by printer. Now for color, I would not advise this. Yes, for black and white, and there's a separate video on that, but not for color. For color, we're trying to get as near to what we've decided we want on the screen onto the paper, and that is an easier job to do with a color managed flow. Now this is presupposing a few things like that your that your monitor is calibrated and that you have correct ICC profiles for the paper and printer and ink, and that is what I have here. So yes, the profile, and the next step to print is to make sure that the printer now knows what it's doing, because one of the things when I first started printing and moved over to Photoshop and got an Epson printer, for the longest time I was getting absolutely dreadful, almost psychedelic colours, and I was following instructions from books by two different authors who I've subsequently really discovered didn't really know what they were talking about, quite honestly. And it wasn't until I followed instructions from a paper manufacturer, and that time it was paper called Fuji Hunt, which was from Fujifilm. But actually the instructions for on the Canson website, that's CANSON, their instructions for printing are superb, and if you're having difficulties, I would suggest you have a wee look at Canson's instructions and use that. Anyway, yes, we're going to go in now and make sure that the printer is going to do what it's told. So if I click on printer here rather than print, that brings me back into this little dialogue again, similar before, but you'll notice that lets us just into the printer utility. So this will be different for different printers. This is the one for the P600 series, and there are a number of things that we need to look at in this. So we've got page layout. We sorted that out earlier. That's all there. So all I want to do here is here in this page here. So first one is we need to set up the type of paper. Now there are different papers here, and quite often the paper manufacturers, again, I know that Canson will do this, in their instructions when you download their profiles, they will also tell you which of these to choose that matches their paper best. So for glossy papers, you've got it here. For matte papers, you have a choice of matte. This basically tells the printer to expect paper of a certain thickness and of a certain finish. That will determine how you feed the paper into the printer. The fine art matte papers tend to be quite thick and need fed in from the back in this particular printer, and thinner papers, the glossy papers, can be fed in from the normal sheet feeder. In this circumstance, this paper is a semi-gloss, essentially in Epson equivalent. So we've got that, and as you can see here, it's telling us it's photo black ink that will be used. So the next thing here is, yes, colour, that's for sure. And the next one I'm going to come down to here is the choice of colour spaces. Now, the software is going to determine the colours, because we've set that all up over here. So basically, in the printer driver, we want colour adjustment turned off, because we just want the printer to do what it's told by the software. So colour adjustment off. Quality, we want to go into quality, not speed. And if we go down to quality options, basically the quality level 4 I find is fine. High speed I have on because essentially that, as you can see there, it just basically means ink is laid down as the printer head moves both directions rather than just putting it in one direction. It does speed it up, but I don't think it could be called high speed. It's not exactly fast. So, and microwave is set to on. Edge smoothing I don't use for high resolution images, so it's not something that's particularly necessary. So okay on that. So we're on quality, we have a colour adjustment, we've got the right paper, we've got A3, we don't want borderless, been through that. But what we do want here is print preview. And the print preview, actually, I just find is something that's you know, it does no harm. It's just another little stage where there's a pause for you to just think over, have I got everything set correctly? Have I done everything I want to do with this image? Is everything set out okay? So if I hit OK there and hit OK there, normally if we didn't have print preview set, this would go straight to the printer and the printer would start to print. But with print preview we get this. Now don't be worried about these rather lurid colours. This isn't a colour matcher, this is just showing the image on the page. This is the top of the page, the bottom of the top of the page here, the bottom of the page here, and this is how it's going to print out when it comes out of the printer. And so that's all it's doing. and the next step then would be to hit print. If you suddenly realise that you've not set this correctly or something, or you picked the wrong paper, or you've got it set to print to printer, then you can change that simply by hitting cancel. No harm done, and all the settings have been saved and will be there again. So when you hit into printer and again and you look at that, it hasn't changed any of that. So the other thing at this point, when everything is set and ready to go, you might want to then save this to use again, and it can be saved as a template over here. So just clicking plus brings up a little dialogue, and it's the P600, and it is A3 plus, and it is a cell size, let's just say max, so it's maximum cell size within the margins, and I want to put it in my color set, and that will produce. So if I want to use that again, all I have to do is click on that, and it will hold all the settings that we've put in, and it's there to use again. So that's basically it. So if I wanted to print this now and I know that everything's okay, I could just hit print and it will send it to the printer. And in fact, actually, if I hit print, it will create a print preview. So there we have it again. So we've still got that option to pause and think, did I mean to do that? Is that okay? Will I go ahead with this? And again, I can cancel out and nothing lost. So that is my approach to colour printing in Lightroom. I hope that has been helpful. Hopefully you'll look back as I add a few more videos on using Adobe Lightroom, which I think if you're not using it for most of your processing and you're not using it for printing, you really ought to reconsider. So, see you in the next video, and thanks for watching.